And welcome to another episode of Football Theory with your host, Ivan and Guti. Guti, how you doing, man?
We're doing great, man. We're doing great. Summer's wrapping up, but it's hot. It's hot outside. It's always plus 90, so we're indoors, but we're doing good.
That's right, man. It is getting hot out there. And just like the way it's getting hot out there, it's hot on the field. We got ourselves a packed show today. We're going to try to keep this as short as possible, but we got a lot to get to. Guti, we're in the middle of a lot going on.
We're yeah, it's like the prime spot right now. We got a little sweet spot. I mean, we got Copa Oro. That's kind of getting to the good stage, and then Olympics started. Well, by the time this comes out, so it started tonight. Women started last night, and then, like you say, Liga MX will be starting this weekend. So there's a lot to talk about right now, and especially next weekend too.
Yeah, and we start off in the Gold Cup. Mexico wins the group, beats El Salvador 1-0. And quite frankly, I thought the game was fantastic. And for a view, just purely in a viewing perspective, I think if you're the Gold Cup, people who run the Gold Cup, you go, this is what I want. This is exactly what I expect. There was no, look like there's no problems with the fans. It was the lower bowl and Cotton Bowl was completely stacked with a great mix of El Salvador and Mexican fans. Almost looked like El Salvador had more people. And on the
Yeah.
field, you saw a game where El Salvador really took it to Mexico, having their high line, having their pressure at a pretty high line where they decided to defend Mexico at the beginning. And that led for a really open and fun game where Mexico could have made it 3-0 by around the 60th minute mark. And then El Salvador really took the game back and hung around and had some great opportunities to tie it up themselves.
I think if yeah, I think I tweeted that if it was closer to 3-0 or 1-1, like it was like that. It was at that point where Mexico had the ball. Just the way they passed the ball was sweet. It was nice. It was crisp, back and forth. And then they got to the point where maybe they almost got kind of, well, they got lazy with it because they got kind of like, well, we're not scoring. And then Salvador was just ready. Salvador was ready for the counters, man. They're ready for the counters. They had that one counter where Edson Alvarez tried to turn around in his defensive third. He lost it. Then this guy hits a rifle, and Talavera comes up with two, crazy blocks. And so that kind of gave it Salvador life. Like, hey, bro, we were literally one shot away from tying this game. And so it was a good game. It was a nail biter, kind of like, oh, come on, man, you guys got to put this away. But I don't think Mexico was not in the driver's seat. I think they were in the driver's seat, like you said, probably 65% of the time. So they were
Yeah,
close.
and I think for Mexico, I'm not worried for Mexico as much as I was impressed with El Salvador
Mm-hmm.
because, and I think I tweeted that because it's a lot of games right now for Mexico. Now they get a week break, so I'm not worried. I think they've gotten playing times, the rest and everything. They deal with a lot even when they don't have games for tournaments like this with all their commitments commercially and all these things. So I'm not worried for Mexico in terms just for this tournament. Again, I think for me, I was more impressed with El Salvador for a footballing aspect.
Yeah.
They didn't sit back like Trinidad and Tobago did, or Guatemala either. I thought the ref did a good job of sending a message early in the game, an early yellow to kind of try to settle everything. I don't think it worked as well as he thought or as well as he hoped because there was times where Mexico just kept getting kicked, and then they kind of took it, and then they kind of equaled it back. But overall, I think if I'm very impressed with El Salvador, and I think moving forward they have a great chance of having a little run this tournament, given what we've seen so far. Not just in this game, in the other games too, where they really took control took control of the early games too in their group stage, where they were already qualified by the time this game kicked off.
Yeah, it was kind of hard for them to get. I guess for them, they were kind of at a different stage where like they're already qualified. They've already hit that goal. First of all, being in the tournament, right after like history they've had, like coming, not coming. They're in the tournament. They get the qualification, which is obviously their first goal. They probably wrote down the whiteboard, and then so now the Mexico game is not that important to them as far as like we need this, but they also were like, dude, this is an opportunity for us to like beat Mexico. This is the time we could beat them. This is the chance we got. And I mean, obviously, player for player, I think Mexico probably still has more experienced players and players playing in higher places, but that doesn't matter when it comes to the field. Huge shout out to Hugo Perez, who's the El Salvador coach, who actually resides here in Northern California. I think he was in Vallejo most of the time. He coaches youth soccer. He's been around. I've seen him in Sacramento many times coaching youth teams. And when he was part of the U14 national team here for the United States, he recruited a lot of Latino, or Mexican American, or maybe from other countries as well for the national team. And so I know some former players of mine ended up playing at those levels because of him. So huge shout out to Hugo Perez, who you know has an eye for talent, right? And is went back to his native country. He did play for the United States national team in the 90s, but going back to his native country, kind of showing what he could do with a very limited roster. Being able to convince Zabaleta, right, which is Grant Vanny's, I think his nephew, from Toronto, right, and a bunch of other guys who have some kind of Salvadorian descent. So who shout out to him? I think his nephew is the young cat that was really good, Joshua Perez, who's playing in Spain. So he shout out to Hugo Perez, and I think I'm hoping that the U.S. national team, well, they probably won't, but I'm hoping the federation open their eye and be like, this is the kind of coach we had in our ranks. See what he could do with the limited roster. Imagine what he could do with, United States. So he shout out to Hugo Perez for sure.
Yeah, and expanding now in a bigger sense of the tournament, I thought there's for El Salvador, they have something interesting where the World Cup qualifying, they might not be able to host the first couple of games because of COVID protocol and what's happening in that country. But for El Salvador, you just seen in Dallas all weekend, not just the Mexico game, but all week they were there, huge numbers and huge crowds for them.
Yeah.
What you saw from there, if I'm El Salvador, I'm like, all right, we can come to Dallas and we can play in Fresco, maybe a smaller stadium and really fill it up and have a real home field advantage if we can't play in El Salvador against the USA and those first couple of World Cup games.
Yeah, and they have a huge fall. Like I said, the following was there. I think another big hotspot, just because I'm very, very familiar with it, is the Bay Area. Maybe use the San Jose Earthquake Stadium, right, which is small, which is nice and cozy. They could fill that out for sure. LA would have to play in a smaller stadium, like maybe the StubHub or whatever it's called now, Dignity Health, Galaxy Home, something like that. Yeah. And I also do know they have a big, there's a big Salvadorian community in like Charlotte, I think, or somewhere out there in the East. But I think definitely they should try Texas for COVID reasons. The opening of they could just fill it up and maybe go FC Dallas Stadium, like you said. So that'd be kind of cool.
Yeah, absolutely. And, it's very interesting. The 7 of the 8 teams besides Qatar are all going to be in the World Cup qualifying. So all of them qualified. All the 7 of the 8 teams that are in the octagon or whatever they're calling it, the Oct, qualified in this World Cup. So in this Gold Cup, which for me tells me that teams like El Salvador, teams like Jamaica, teams like Canada, they have a plan. They've had a plan now for a couple of years, and they're having a process, which is great for the federations and which is great for the region. When there is no surprise team, no Guadalupe or anything this tournament that surprises. These are all teams that have showed a process and have shown that they're getting results from these processes. Whether you're El Salvador, whether you're Jamaica, where there's a reason they're in the World Cup qualifying, and they're showing it here when they're beating the teams they're supposed to. And they're also both El Salvador and Jamaica are making do with and being creative in how they're finding players, where they're finding dual nationals, whether it's English players or whether it's American or Salvadorian players or anything like that. So they're showing that what can happen when you have coaches that believe in a process, when you have a process that they're allowing them to work on, and when they're creative and trying to find the best possible players to represent their countries.
Yeah, I think most of these countries have had that kind of process where they've had to start let's start from the outside, go look for what we can get first, who's already out playing professionally somewhere else, and then we'll go home league, right? And I think obviously Jamaica's always kind of done that. The USA was doing that with Klinsmann, right? Klinsmann was all about that. He was kind of like, hey, I know we got this. Is there more? And he was looking for more. Mexico did it, when La Volpe was in charge at the really beginning, he opened it up and found Neri Castillo. And Neri Castillo didn't want to play for the Olympics, but he had that idea of let's get some guys that are from here, from other players, or they're Mexican, but there's not that many that play around the world like that. So, and Canada's always kind of done it, right? Canada's still doing it. It looks like they have players that are from all over the place. They're trying to steal one of the Mexican players as well, Marcelo Flores. So, huge shout out to all these teams right here. I think Panama is the only one, obviously, that didn't make it. If Qatar wasn't in the tournament, Panama would be definitely in. And so we'd have the same final 8 that we talked about for the fall.
Yeah. And so now we're moving forward. So I think, whether you're if you're El Salvador or if you're Jamaica or you're Canada, you go, all right, great. We made it out of the group. I think they should feel a little disappointed that none of these teams won the group because they're all matched up against Mexico, USA, Costa Rica. Teams are going to have to beat to really make the World Cup if we're looking ahead, right? So these are opportunities for them to take a chance at that, build confidence not only for the tournament but for when World Cup qualifying starts too, right?
Yes, I think your dog also believes that too.
Yeah, no, Archie is a big believer. He's backing me up on that. He also believes that this is a great opportunity for these teams. But now we're looking for the quarterfinals. We have some really good matchups.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, and like looking at the matchups on Saturday, you have Qatar, who has just been fantastic all tournament long, scoring 3 goals a game, averaging 3 goals a game. We talked about the Asian champions. They were in they were Copa America 2019. They're showing they're no joke. They won the group and they face El Salvador, which is a really tasty matchup when you consider everything we just mentioned about El Salvador.
Dude, they're dope. And I mean, will this kind of go back to people say CONCACAF is the worst region? I don't think it is. I think Oceania, whatever, I don't know how you say it, is obviously probably lower than CONCACAF, but Qatar's kind of showing you like some of these teams here would not go to the Asia Cup and win it. You know what I mean? Like you'd have to beat Japan, you'd have to beat some other, you'd have to beat Australia, right? And in the African nations, we all know like most of those, I would say a good handful of them would definitely go really far in the Copa Oro, right? It would be a lot of these teams. So, it's kind of proving Qatar is just repping their region. They came in hard. Like I said, if Japan would have been here or Australia, they probably would have shown kind of the same. But Qatar is dope, man. They're showing what they got. They're fast. That's the thing. They're really quick. I don't know technique-wise, are they better than Salvador? I think El Salvador's coming in like really hot. Where's the game? The game's going to be in Arizona, right? Glendale?
Yeah, I believe it's going to be in Arizona.
So I'm hoping they show out. I'm hoping Salvador fans show out. And, I'm rooting for Salvador. I'm always going to root for Los Hermanos Latinos. So hopefully they could get in that win. But it's going to be a tough one, man. I think size-wise and speed-wise, I think Qatar kind of beats them on that. And maybe experience, too.
Yeah, you think Qatar? Yeah. I wouldn't be – I think – Qatar has shown that they might just have too much firepower for El Salvador. Again, El Salvador, because they want to, if they're pressing kind of higher, their defensive line, they're confronting the team pretty high up, which allow for opportunities. And Qatar showed that they really love to play quickly, get out wide, and really get at you. So they could lead to a lot of goals. It could have been a blowout early on if Mexico would have finished their chances. So. I think for Qatar, I think you might be right. It's a little too much. The other matchups before we get to the Mexico one, you have Costa Rica and Canada. Canada played USA really well after allowing a goal in the first 30 seconds. The rest of the game, they battled. They tried to take it to the United States. Costa Rica showed enough to beat Jamaica. I think this one's another toss-up. I think almost all these games are toss-ups, especially this one. I think Costa Rica it's kind of that kind of vet team where they know how to win, they know how to get results, where Canada still is in the learning process of how to do that. How do we get results? How do we nick these goals? How do we hold these goals? Costa Rica knows kind of how to do that, actually.
Costa Rica they got the veterans. They got Joel Campbell, who's been playing Copa Oro for like 10 years. They had like a highlight. He scored a goal like 10 years ago in Copa Oro, which is crazy because I remember him starting out. So that means I'm just getting older because I remember Joel Campbell starting as a kid going to Arsenal, right? With La Volpe as the coach. So I'm like, dude, what's going on?
He's only 28.
Huh?
He's only like 28, 29.
I know, but that's 10 years. That means I was 22, so goodness sakes. No.
Brian Reese, man.
Brian Reese. It seems like they got the same guys. Remember they used to have like Sambrosa, whatever his name was. So
yeah, I remember when Brian Reese was like one of the best players or at a time could have been considered the best player in CONCACAF.
He was dope.
But yeah, at 35. Yeah. I mean, they're
so they got veterans. They've been there before. They have World Cup experience. They have qualifier experience. They've gone to Azteca. They've shown Mexico what they could do. I mean, so they're not going to be scared of Canada, like you said, a young Canada team that, some of the guys play here and there without their best player. Costa Rica is going to win this game. It's going to be, they're not like killing teams, but they're going to hang around and they're definitely going to be annoying. And they're just playing with experience, kind of the same way Mexico played El Salvador. Was like, okay, you guys can pressure if you want, but like, we know we'll score a goal if we need one. And I think that's kind of like, it was kind of cocky, but it was kind of like when you have a better team against a younger team where it's like, all right, you guys can, keep pressuring us if you want, but we're going to score. So, which obviously bugs me a lot. We'll talk about Mexico in a second, but definitely. I have Costa Rica winning that game against Canada. So no surprises there either. I'm not going for the surprise on that one.
Before we get to Mexico, we got one more: USA against Jamaica. USA wins the group. Jamaica finishes second. Jamaica has a history. 2015, they're finalist after beating United States. 2017, they're finalist in Gold Cup after beating Mexico. So two Gold Cup final appearances in the last 3 tournaments.
Yep.
They finished second to Costa Rica, but they've played some pretty good football here. Do they have enough to beat USA? Because this is the one where I think they can, because I think they're going to play with confidence because they've done it before. The coach has been there before. He's beaten USA before, so he's going to have these guys ready and focused, I think, to really send a message, especially after that Costa Rica defeat.
I don't think. Yeah, this is the time. I was going to say I don't think they're better than the United States. I think if USA goes to play like athletic football, like, we're gonna run, we're gonna use our size. That's literally what Jamaica's gonna do. That's literally Jamaica's style, right? Size and speed and athleticism, right? So you're not gonna beat them on the headers. You're not gonna beat them on the crosses, right? You're not gonna beat them playing long ball. You're not gonna run by them, right? You're not gonna just run by them like they did against some Canadians. So I do believe that Jamaica. I don't think they're better than the United States squad, but they're gonna hang around long enough, and I don't know, man. I can see them win, like you said too. They could beat Mexico today too. Like they're just that kind of team. They're better than Trinidad and Tobago because they actually play a little better with the ball. They have guys that play in second divisions here and there. They've always done that. They have guys with British or English citizenship. So I don't know, man. I think Jamaica could do it. I think Jamaica. I'll be rooting for Jamaica inside a little bit. The USA, they have a lot of experience too. These guys are pro players, so we'll see.
And I think it's going to be interesting. Also note, if it ends 0-0 or if it ends tied after 90 minutes, it goes straight to BKs, I believe, because that's what they've been. That also happened in Nations League.
So then Jamaica's winning then, because if there's no overtime, Jamaica's going to win. If it goes up to a toss-up, Jamaica's winning. So I'm just going to go out and say it. Jamaica's winning this game.
And that leads us to Mexico, Honduras. Mexico wins the group. They've got a couple. They got Guatemala beat 3-0 here. For a good majority of the game, they're playing pretty well against El Salvador. Not the best. They still haven't hit their strides, but Honduras now struggling with some injuries. They lose to Qatar much easily, the second best team, but they have been known to frustrate Mexico at times. They tied earlier in the summer 0-0. I'm hopefully optimistic with this Mexico to get the result here, but I think it could be a lot of the same things we've been seeing where it gets physical. They're going to try to frustrate Mexico. And as long as the game stays 0-0, the frustrations and the hits and the kicks are going to keep coming and coming. With that, I still think Mexico has enough to win this game by 2 goals at least.
Well, Mexico has enough to beat all these teams by 2 goals. I think with Honduras is definitely the one team that's not scared of Mexico. I think that's the one. I'm sorry. I think they're the one that just they don't care. They're going to go all out. They're very athletic. They're very fast. They were playing well against Qatar. They did give up a goal and they gave up, they gave up the goal at the end, but that one doesn't really matter. But, this Honduras squad I think they're better than El Salvador as well. I think they're better than them. They have more experience. Their keeper's dope. Their keeper's been with them for a little while. I think he went to the Olympics last time too. I mean, he's a good keeper. They have a strong squad. We'll see. They got some veterans in there, like Minor Figueroa, that doesn't go away. I think he's like 38 years old, but they have some guys that I've been hearing the same Honduran names like for a long time. So, I'm a fan of theirs. I have friends from Honduras. So, but Mexico's going to win. Mexico's going to win this game. They're going to, I think they're going to regroup. Like you said, that 1 week off is going to be a big deal. And then, Pizarro's coming in, your twin. So we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. We'll see. But Mexico's going to win this game.
Yeah, I think probably the biggest thing, not just comparing them to each other, but just for Mexico, that week off really is going to help. The recovery is really going to help. Some of the mistakes and some of the reasons I thought El Salvador was able to kind of hang around and push at the end for a draw was because I think some of the players on Mexico started to look a little winded. I think they started to feel a little winded.
It was hot. Wasn't it hecka hot and humid?
Yeah, I mean, spending a week in Dallas having to play games.
Oh, dehydrated, man. Yeah, they need water. Edson looked really tired. He was making a little sloppy mistakes.
Yeah,
Hector Herrera looked really, really tired at the end. Like he was like, bro, you give me the ball every single play, And like, I think Jonathan Dos Santos should have played a lot more that game, like maybe 30 minutes instead of the last 10, 15, because they needed those legs. But I think Tata was also like, okay, this is the squad. Let's just end this game and not use guys that we don't need to use right now because we have a game in a week. And I think he's going to go all out against Honduras. So he's definitely going to change it up a little bit and put some more guys in.
You make a good point. I think we're learning that Mexico does have some good options. There's some options to change things up depending on what they need. I think Guti had a really good game. For against Honduras, or against El Salvador, trying to dictate the game. He's kind of showing that he can be an option moving forward. If we think about the Mexico in the hex where you're playing, or in the octagon where you're playing 3 games in a week, where you're going to go to all these different, there's going to be jet lag.
Rotaciones, Osorio.
There's showing that like players like Guti are going to come in handy. Someone who can kind of be interchangeable with someone like Andres Guardado or Jonathan Dos Santos, who, I think he's so confident in himself and what he does. He knows exactly what he brings. He knows exactly what he doesn't bring. I think, kind of going off topic or a little tangent, a lot of these players have a lot of self-doubt and they cover it with cockiness, where I think Jonathan Dos Santos has just a lot of self-confidence in his ability, what he does, and as a footballer in general, that he knows exactly what he brings to the table, and he's somebody who can bring you something depending on the game. And and then you talk about the guys that options you have on the Olympic team, but now you're seeing that Mexico does have some things and they can show you different things depending on what you need. Whether you need whether Alvarez needs a little more support, whether you need to be more aggressive. A lot of interchangeable things. And I think right now from the Gold Cup, that's what we're seeing. Like, hey, not everything is locked in, but we are putting some pieces together, and there are going to be options moving forward depending on what we need.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of interchangeable players. That's kind of looking. I told you that before. He doesn't change the scheme of things. Like when he subs, it's literally man for man. So like he's looking for guys that can sub in man for man. Like, okay, they might not be the same qualities, because I think Jonathan Dos Santos could start on the national team. If it was a different coach, they could start him depending on what they want from him. He's good, man. He's dope. He's always been great. He does what he does. He doesn't overdo it. He's got a crazy shot from outside. Every single pass he does is one touch. I mean, his class is there. So I think he's just waiting his turn, and he's always going to be around, and he knows that, hey, I'm going to be a sub, and that's just how it's going to be. So he's ready to go. But I do think he's more, he probably gives you a little more than Guti. I think Guti does more passing, as far as like longer passes. I don't know what he sees in him more, but I like Jonathan Dos Santos, man. I really do. I like his whole career. I think he's been solid. So we'll see. Going forward, I think Tata is going to be looking somehow to incorporate. Well, I don't know why he called Pizarro. Let me stop right there. Why did he call Pizarro at all the guys to bring in? What do you think?
Well, I think because he likes Pizarro.
What? But like for what? Like at what position are you going to?
I think he sees him in the position where Orbelin started the other day. Someone to kind of be a little more of a link up, and because with Chucky and Corona up top, it's Corona drops in a little bit more, but there's very like 3-4.
Yeah.
Now, kind of, I think he saw Orbelin didn't have the best game against El Salvador. Had a good one against Guatemala, not the best here, but I can totally see him just starting Pizarro in that Orbelin spot where he's kind of, not like a free 10, but something similar where he's more of a link up between the midfielders, especially if they continue with a Guti kind of in the midfield, because Guti loves to connect the passes and kind of be a huge link up. And I think if I was trying to get in Tata's head, I assume that's where someone like Pizarro comes in to kind of be more of that. And when you think about him and you think about the style of Pulido, who could get minutes as well.
Bro, hey, let's stop you right there. Pulido did sick. In 5 minutes, he almost scored a banger, right? It like, and I'm kind of like figuring out Tata, like he doesn't need like a fast 9. Like we're all arguing that we want Chicharito, right? But that kind of player is a guy that you put balls into him and he needs to finish, right? Chicharito will not create his own opportunities. Chicharito, he can hardly play with his back to the goal. He's always like falling over. He's just not that guy, right? He's just straight facing the goal. He's a poacher, right? And I feel like the one thing you can say about Funes Mori and Alan Pulido is they can hold the ball for you and they can create their own shot. And that's something that Chicharito can't do. So I don't, man, I wish Alan Pulido almost scored that goal, man. And it just hurts me that you're naming guys that were on my Chivas team and just showing you the kind of guys we used to have. So Yeah.
Yeah, and so I know Polito gets a lot of crap, and I'm known to give him crap
He's
too.
fancy.
But what he does well is he plays that kind of false nine where he drops in a little more, and he does play well with the ball behind his back. And when he drops in, he allows for himself either to run space behind after checking in and coming behind, or for somebody else to come in. Um, and you've seen those in spurts. I think he works well in this Mexican team as a sub. Kind of bring in that somebody new. If whether you are in the lead and you need somebody to hold it, kind of and be an outlet for you, he does that well. He likes playing with the ball behind his back. He also has enough skill to, when he gets it, if he feels the pressure, to get behind you with through the dribble or with a connection. So I think I wouldn't be surprised if against Honduras you see Pulido and Pizarro get like 15 minutes.
So all you're missing is Almeida, and we got Chivas 2018.
You know what I mean? Because weirdly enough, their styles do complement each other well, because Pizarro likes to play within those spaces, those connections where he can drop into space, and then Pizarro checks in, he can play it off to Pizarro, and then Pizarro can make the decision on what he wants to do depending on the movement that the Pulido make when Pulido receives the ball, making the decision depending on the movement Pizarro makes or anybody else. So I think that's why, and you can kind of, I'm almost talking myself now into, I can see it now, because I can kind of see.
You try to talk yourself into it. And I'm not trying to knock Pizarro. I love Pizarro. Obviously, what he did at club level, but right now he's not doing anything. So I'm like, what are you talking about? I was thinking more like Santi Jimenez, right, from Cruz Azul, a little young forward, give him an opportunity to get in there, get some minutes, but he's not. That's what I'll say. I don't know. Are you calling someone because you wanted him to begin with, or are you calling him now because you see what you need? And I think he's calling him because he sees what he needs, right? Like, oh shoot, this is what I do need right now.
Yeah, because I think he won't. He's only playing with a two. He's playing with one center forward, so he has one now in the backup, and so now he's seeing the option of if it's not Orbanin, and it also shows that probably Efrain might be struggling a little bit to make the adjustment to the higher level, because after the Trinidad game we haven't seen him since. So maybe in practices they're not seeing enough from Efrain to feel comfortable putting him in the starting position like that either. So
which is why we question why he went to the Copa Oro to begin with. But
yeah.
Why not? Maybe he doesn't. Maybe he doesn't fit the Olympic team. Olympic team's kind of stacked too. He's just young, man.
He's young, and it's a learning process for him too. You know what I mean? So, having him in that environment in the day by day is good, because now he's seeing it, and and it's also just gives you another option depending on what you want to do. So, moving forward, it'll be interesting to see how Mexico navigates these knockout stages. Honduras is not a gimme. I think we both feel confident that they couldn't get they should get the result. I think Mexico is still the favorites, but I think this Gold Cup's been very competitive, and I think this knockout stage is going to be as competitive as I can remember all 1 through 4 games that we've had in a while.
Yeah, they were saying like though that El Salvador Mexico was most viewed game in 10 years in group stage. And I was like, wow. And I wanted to give you a huge shout out to El Salvador again. Huge shout out for showing up to the stadium. Huge shout out to their coach, everything they did, because I feel like that's what CONCACAF needs. We need all the teams to be in the process, to be trying to go to the World Cup, to be turning the page and trying to change things up, and not just going with the same old. And so this is better for Mexico. This is better for CONCACAF. This is way better for Gold Cup, to actually watch a game that's like, oh shoot, the best team might lose,
And that wasn't the only. Hey, Panama, Honduras was lit too. Those fans.
That was a good game. That was a good game. Panama, all their games were dope. They don't deserve to not qualify, because they the Qatar was 3-3, right? They lost to Honduras in a tight one. Panama was kind of in a tough group in that regard, because they didn't know what Qatar was going to bring. So they don't really deserve to not qualify to the next round, but I guess one of them has to go back. So I think Panama was better than this Canada team, to be honest. I really think they were better than this Canada team. The Canada team is winning these games, but look at their group. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Haiti, and then Martinica. Like, Martinica was a walk in there. It was a walk in the park for everyone. So Panama didn't have that opportunity.
Well, the good thing is we have about a little over a month before we get to see all these teams go at each other again with something bigger on the line. And
where a tie is good, right? Where people want to get a tie at home, right?
And by November we'll have 8 games played, so we'll see everybody go through everybody once, and a game after that, one more game after that too. So if we're looking at the bigger picture, like talking about World Cup qualifying through this Gold Cup, the fact that 7 of the 8 teams made it through, and Panama didn't go out, like a whimper. They were battling too. I think that, I mean, this makes it exciting, and same thing moving forward with these knockout stages. Not only do you win and progress through a tournament, you're also sending a message later on in a couple of weeks or in a couple of months where where you're battling for something even bigger too.
And
So
a lot of teams are going to bring different guys, right? Because a lot of these teams have different guys busy with certain situations.
I mean, you
we're
got
gonna
team
have
like,
like
you got team like Jamaica, who's got guys, like Antonio for West Ham, who has decided he will play for Jamaica, who they didn't call him so he could do his preseason with them. But you got guys who are going to be playing.
Alfonso Davis is coming from Canada, right? Mexico's bringing the Olympic squad, players from the Olympic team,
Yeah,
people that are
USA's gonna
injured.
have all their guys. You think the Davies boys from Canada are gonna be good, are gonna be back as well. So Navas should be back for Costa Rica.
Costa
You hope.
Rica. Yep.
So it's only just a tease of what could be even a very exciting World Cup qualifying. So
But I will also say I think you're going to get some better games right here, only because some teams are opening up, and I think getting into the qualifier, Mexico on the road and Jamaica, like they might park the bus. You might see teams park a bus, and we're going to be back to the same old, trying to get 1-0 wins out of the way and whatever it means. And so we'll see. The qualifier is all about points, right? So 1 point here, they're good. They're okay with 1 point. So we'll see.
We can talk about that more in the future. I will say that Mexico at home, I think you'll see that a lot. Mexico on the road, I think, because it's going to be so competitive with all these teams having to get points at home. Those are going to open up a lot more for you.
I hope so.
Especially because they will all have confidence that they can get the result they need at home. So I think that'll open up more. But we can get to that later. We went. That's our Gold Cup. That's our Gold Cup right there. I think we've both been excited with what we've seen and excited for the knockout stage.
Yep.
Next, we'll get ready for the Olympics. We got Mexico, France kicking off the Olympics.